Do you ever wonder if you've been marked? You survived the spectral sales event. You've seen the haunting results of life consumed by cheap thrills and impulse buys, courtesy of Wally Wimp and the Emporium. Now we move beyond the satire. Tonight, we open the door to the true source of that mundane dread. This is the launchpad for a brand new series, Steel Shadows, Visions of Richard Matheson. Across 10 episodes, we will analyze how Matheson's iconic tales, from robot boxers and steel to the road rage paranoia of Duel, directly mirrored the shadows in his own life. We'll explore the real-life trauma of a World War II veteran, the painful losses that informed his domestic horror, and the Hollywood frustrations that fueled his sharpest satire. The fear we confront tonight is more fundamental. It's the realization that you are merely expected to conform, expected to vanish into the relentless pattern of the ordinary. Prepare to venture into the mind of a master, prepare to see the world as Matheson did, where the uncanny twist is never far from the mundane truth. The curtain is up. The shadows are gathering. SL Tonight, anthology, begins. Good evening, seekers of the end times, and welcome to SL Tonight, where we explore the apocalyptic visions of Richard Matheson, the horror innovator who penned 14 novels and 16 Twilight Zone episodes. I'm Felix Lebeski, your host for Steel Shadows, Visions of Richard Matheson, a series celebrating a man whose stories lampoon his career. Cold War fears fueling doomsday dread, pulp roots evolving into existential warnings. In the 1950s, Matheson was in California scripting for Alfred Hitchcock Presents, inspired by nuclear anxiety and his World War II experiences that made him question humanity's survival. When Day is Done grew from that dread, a tale of Earth's final hours, reflecting his aim to blend sci-fi with moral reckoning. Published in 1954 in Amazing Stories, it captures his skill at turning global catastrophe into personal reflection. Drawn from Hiroshima headlines and his fear of mankind's self-destruction. Behind the scenes, Matheson wrote this amid the Korean War, lampooning his own shift from optimistic pulps to darker narratives, where the end reveals our flaws. Let's face the last dawn. Here's When Day is Done. Now pray good night to earth, for day is done, and man's estate is cast into vault of time, tucked into grave cloths of forever, snuff the candle of attempt, and let fall across our eyes that secret shroud of fusion with dark mystery. He sat upon a rock and wrote his text on wood, using a pen as pen a charcoal finger. It is just, he mused, that the concluding theme should be set down to this digit in limbo, this beggarly pulpus which once pointed at earth and sky to arrogate, I am your master, earth, your master, sky, and now lies grilled and temperate among the rubbish of your being. I sit at earth's wake and shed no tear. Now he raised funeral eyes to float across the plain, a glacial contemplation. Between his fingers rolled the sooty stylus, and breath showed nasal evidence of his disgust. Nay, here I am, he brooded, perched upon a tepid boulder and inspecting that monumentous joke which man has finally played upon himself. He smote his brow and, ah, he cried, spiritually swept overboard. His great despairing head flopped forward on his chest, and quavering moans beset his form. Birthright disemboweled, he sorrowed, golden chance arrest, man has found the way but to extinction. Then he straightened up to make his back a ramrod of defiance. I shall not be a cur bowing, he vowed. This mortuary moment shall not have the best of me. Yea, though death bestride me and plucks with spectral fingers at my swords, I shall not cry for less. I am inviolate. The tatters quivered royally upon his shoulders. He bent to write again. Now let me relish death, as earth gloats o'er her own demise, with eyes as shimmering slack. One leaden edge of tongue peeped out through the barricades of lip. Now he was hot. Birds crow a serenade to man, incinerated heat, prostrate sautéed skeleton, for all the gods to see. Birds peck a saucy tune with bristly nibs, upon the xylophone of man's forgotten ribs. Capital! Capital! He cried, stamping one unbooted foot upon the ashy soil. In the excitement of the phrase he dropped his pen and stopped to pluck it up. Here, deposed antennae, he grimaced the thought, and then he wrote again. Odd it was, he scrolled, that man throughout his ill-tuned history never ceased to plot man's own destruction. Chorus. More than fantastic, this alien two lived together and never knew. He paused. How to continue, he wondered. How to go on with this concluding ledger of man's account. It demanded bite, a trenchant instantaneity, and yet deceptively calm like 40-fathom sea when gales are shrieking overhead. As there, so here, he thought, I must suggest the Titanic with polished and well-mannered couplets. As, for instance, tell me here what difference there to burn in bias or burn in fires. I have no audience nor hope of one yet. I go on composing till what needs to be said is said, and then I go my own way. He reached in his pocket for the 27th time, and drawing out the pistol, rolled its chamber with reflective finger. One bullet there, he knew, his key to final rest. He gazed into the barrel's dark eye and did not quail. Yes, when it ends, he thought, when I have savored to the dregs this dark wine of most utter ruination, I shall press the city in my head and blow away the last of man's complaints. But now, he thought, back to my work. I have not done with mankind yet. In few words so remain several discourteous racks supposing. Shall I dispose too soon of what man always wanted most, the last word? He's flourished as stylish, wrote, but this, the final entry, in mankind's book of Psalms, he knit his shroud with atoms and dug his grave with bombs. No, that did not catch his temper. He scratched it out. Let me see. He tapped a nail upon his eroded teeth. What can I say? Ah! Man the better, man the higher, man that pumps the world's on fire. But is this all quite fair, he mused amid chuckling, that I, a sole survivor, make such light of this unnatural tragedy which is the fall of man? Should I not instead sing out mountainous regrets and some entitled panegyrics which would wash away all bitterness with one great cleansing surge? Should I not? Man, he brooded, what have you done with your so excellent a world? Was it so small that you should scorn it, so drafty you should heat it to an incandescence, so unsightly you should rearrange its mountains and its seas? Ah, he said, oh, ah. His hands fell limp. A tear, two tears ran down his beak-shaped nose to quiver on the tip, then fall upon the ground and hiss. What portent this, his mind groaned on, that I should be the last of man's embittered tribe? The very last. Portent this, last moment this, to be alone in all the world. It is too much, he cried aloud within his head. I reel at the significance. He fingered the gun. How can I bear to hold this crushing weight upon my shoulders? Are my words appropriate? My sentiments all fit for this immensity of meaning? He blinked, releasing the pistol. He was insulted by the question. What? I not up to it? What, my words inappropriate? He straightened up and bristled at the ashen and vapored sky. It is fitting, he declared, that these last measures be composed by a man alone. For shall a pack of masons clamor around the stone, entangling arms in clumsy eagerness to chisel out man's epitaph? And shall a host of scriveners haggle endlessly on man's obituary, muttering and wrangling like a coachless football team in huddle? No, this is best. One man to suffer beautiful agonies, one voice to speak the final words, then dot the I's and cross the T's, and so farewell to man's domain, ending, if not sustaining, in gentle poetry. And I, that man, I, that voice, blessed with this final opportunity, my words alone without a million others to dilute them, my phrases only to ring out through all eternity, uncontradicted. He sighed, he wrote again. It took this to make me individual, the killing of all men, yea. His head jerked up, alarmed. As far from across the rubbled plain there came a sound. Eh? He muttered. What be that? He blinked, refocused blood-streaked eyes, shook his head, squinted, and then his lower jaw slipped down until his mouth became a yawning cave. A man was hobbling across the plain, waving a crooked arm at him. He watched the ashes rise in clouds of powder around the limping man, and in his mind a great numbness struck. A fellow creature, a comrade, another voice to hear, another. The man stumbled up. Friend! Cried the man from out his startled face. And abruptly, hearing this man's voice usurp the mountainous, brooding silence, something suddenly snapped within the poet's brain. "I shall not be robbed," he cried, and he shot the man neatly between the eyes. Then he stepped across the peaceful body and went over to another rock-effused sidewalk. He sat, shook back his sleep, and just before he bent to work again, he spun the empty chambers in his hand. Ah, well, he sighed, for this moment to have this glorious shining doom alone, it was worth it. Sonnet to a Paraboiled Planet, he began. That was When Day Is Done, a story that echoes Richard Matheson's Cold War dread. At 28, Matheson was in California, submitting to pulps like Amazing Stories, inspired by Hiroshima's fallout that made him ponder humanity's self-destruction. It lampoons his career, war's horrors extended to global scales, his pulp roots maturing into moral tales. Writing this in 1954, he drew from Korean War news and his father's immigrant tales of loss, aiming to show how the end exposes their denial. Behind the scenes, Matheson collaborated with Twilight Zone producers, but the story stayed in magazines, reflecting his frustration with Hollywood's limits on apocalyptic themes. It's a window into what drew him to Doomsday. The fear that our flaws lead to our undoing, a theme that hit home in his post-war life. Richard Matheson, the visionary behind When Day Is Done, turned a fading world into a mirror of our sins. The story asks, what do we do when the end comes and who's to blame? Join us next time for Steel Shadows, Visions of Richard Matheson on SL Tonight, as we keep unearthing his enigmas. Good night.